This is Breaion King. Let's continue to fight this war and battle with love.
All right, so we have in the studio today, we have Breaion King. She's the Austin school teacher that was literally dragged out of her vehicle by an Austin police officer. And this story sparked the HBO special Traffic Stop. And so Breaion's in the studio today. And, we're going to get right to it because we have a lot to cover. And there's a lot of details in there that we want to get to. So let me welcome to the show Breaion King. Welcome to Come and Talk It.
Hello, thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, where did you grow up?
Okay, so of course my name is Breaion King, and I grew up in East Austin, Texas. I actually went to L.L. Campbell Elementary. By 2000, we moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was with my mom and my two siblings and everything like that. And then we came back in 2006, and after my mother passed away, to live with my grandmother and my aunt.
Okay, and where did you attend college?
So I went to Houston Tillotson University for my undergraduate degree.
Nice.
And for
HT.
my yes, Rams. And I went to Texas State University for my master's.
Okay, and you say you have siblings.
Yes, sir. I have two siblings. I have an older sister and a younger sister. So I have the middle child syndrome.
Oh.
I am the protector. And then I have a niece and a nephew. And then, of course, I have several people that I claim as siblings that are not necessarily biological. I have three of those, 3 brothers and 4 sisters.
Okay. And how long have you been a teacher?
I have been working with kids since 2009. So I've been working with kids for at least 10 years. And I've been an educator since 2013, so it's been 6 years.
Oh, wow. And were you with the Austin Independent School District?
No, sir. I've been working with charter schools. I've been working within the charter community, but I used to volunteer within ISD.
Nice. How is that working with kids?
Honestly, it's amazing.
Is it?
It really is. I feel like it is an honor to actually be able to work with kids because what you don't know and understand is they are our future, but they also teach you so much more, and they are a reflection of you. So I've been blessed with the opportunity to actually grow with a lot of my kids and see some of my kids grow. One of my kids called me the other day and was like, "Miss King, can I have a review? Could you give me a review? I need a letter of recommendation." And I said, "Okay, baby, are you still a STAR student?" She said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "Okay, well then I can get you a review." So I've honestly been blessed to see a lot of my kids grow up.
Nice. And so you learn something from them.
Yes, you literally learn every single day. They take and they make your mind think differently. They take and they make your action think differently because you sit there and they will be like, "Oh, well, Miss King, you did do. And I was like, "Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Well, very good." And especially since, I did math and science. I was mostly emphasis in math and science. My kids used to think, I always tell them there's more than one way to actually solve a problem. So what they would do is they would come in and they would teach me different ways that they see the problems. I teach them how to see patterns, and they would see patterns that I couldn't see or, other people didn't see. And so they got to teach me, and then I allowed them to be able to teach other people too. And it's honestly, it's a beautiful honoring.
So this is being a teacher is like a calling, I think. It's something that you have to be born with it to be able to, to want to nurture, those young minds.
It definitely is a calling. People say you have to have more patience. I felt like I had a lot of patience, but people tell me all the time that they couldn't do what I do. And I was just like, well, why not? Why wouldn't you want to take care of these kids? They're amazing, and you get to just take and you get to mold them and you get to shape them into like the positive being. You can teach them and you get to show them that they can be any and everything that they desire to be.
Wow.
And that's beautiful.
Oh, man, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about, because you dance as well.
Yes.
You're a dancer.
Yes, sir. I am. We actually are in our second real season, our full season. I'm with Ashe Arts Collective, Ashe Arts Austin Collective. And I've had the opportunity to actually dance with her for, I think, a good three to four, maybe going 3 to 4 years. And my instructor, she's an amazing instructor because she actually started with healing through movement within the community and was trying to like get the community in there to teach them how trauma within their lives is still within their body. So she's also like she's also a therapist.
Oh, wow.
And she's working on her yoga. So she's working on her yoga instructing license and everything like that. So working with her has been the ultimate release of a lot of stuff. You know, release of stress, release of trauma, either past or present. I actually was working with her, and I had a show with her after the incident. Mm-hmm. And she could see and she can tell in my body that there was something wrong.
2 minutes.
So she blessed me to be able to work through some of the issues that I was dealing with at the time.
And so, that, like you said, that's a good stress reliever because that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Because before we get to that, because I want to get to that after the break, when something traumatic happens to you, it takes a lot. You have to rally around like your family, friends, yes. And then, I can only imagine, the students, because you'd be surprised, these kids see everything. They see, they hear, they listen to everything. They hear, what their parents are talking about, mm-hmm. and they watch the news because their parents are watching the news. And so all of a sudden they see their school teacher, on the 5 o'clock news, and they're like, that's Miss King.
Oh, yeah. My kids had a fit. Like, they had the hardest time understanding. And I remember after the situation, I had to go in there, and it was like, well, Miss King, we don't understand why. Well, what's going on? And I looked at them, and I had to tell them, you know how there are good teachers and there are bad teachers? Well, there are good officers and there are bad officers. And I had to simply explain it like that.
All right, so we're in the studio today. We're talking with Breaion King. She's an Austin school teacher, was an Austin school teacher, that was dragged literally out of her vehicle by an Austin police officer. And this is a story that was sparked by, sparked by that incident, and then HBO picked it up and did an HBO special called Traffic Stop. If you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, check it out. I want you to go back to this, this fateful day and tell us a little bit about what was going on. At first, I want you to start by telling me, where were you going that day?
Okay, so at the time I was getting my master's at Texas State in education. So I was coming from a program with working with kids where they actually got the opportunity to enhance their learning skills through actual physical activities and everything like that. And then I was on my way to an enrichment camp for summer school afterwards. So that's where I was working at the time. So while I was on my way there, I can go through the whole story. Mm-hmm. While I was on my way there, I will always remember there was this red truck that just sped past me. He was going further. He was going in front of me. And I remember I was like, okay, well, I'm driving. Okay, I'm speeding. Okay. Oh, this is red truck. Oh, he's speeding really fast. So I pull over and I pull into the Wendy's. And I get out of my car. Behind me is Richter. And he tells me to get back in my car.
And you were going to Wendy's, you were going to get something to eat?
Yes, sir. I was about to pick up something to eat. So I get out of the car. He tells me to get back in my car. I was like, okay. I comply. I get into my car and everything like that. He asked me for my license and registration. I reach underneath my seat because that's where I keep my wallet. And I handed him everything that I needed.
Because he said, well, you didn't have your wallet on you, so how are you going to get something from Wendy's?
Mm-hmm. And so I always keep cash on me, and I always keep my card on me. So.
And you have that separate?
Mm-hmm. I keep it separate.
Okay.
So after that, he tells me to put my legs in the vehicle, but my legs are in the vehicle. And so I didn't understand what was going on. So. That's
that one of those things, I want you to do something, but you're already doing it, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, okay. And then after that, he proceeded to, tell me that I was under arrest. Mind you, I don't know everything that is going on. This stuff is going quickly. So I know for a fact that in my head, I'm thinking, what's your badge number? What's your name? Where's the second officer? Because they said, now the law was supposed to have, you're supposed to have like 2 officers whenever you get pulled over or something like that. Where's your partner? You don't have a partner. And that's all I could think of at the time. And I'm sitting there like, oh, my God. Are you serious? And so he started pulling me out of the vehicle, and I said, okay, just let me get out. Just let me get out. I'll get out. And he would not let me get out by myself. And from there, he proceeded to sling me around like a rag doll, throwing me to and fro. And for me, it was genuinely an out-of-body experience because I was sitting there literally watching myself get thrown, and I'm like, oh my God, is this seriously happening to me? I know on the tape you can hear me saying, oh my God, because I literally was praying the whole time because I thought I was going to lose my life. Because I'm sitting there watching myself as this person is throwing me around. And so from there, when I get with everything finally, I guess, slowed down, he took and he had me in handcuffs. And while he was walking me to the car, he has my hands pushed up all the way behind my back, above kind of past my shoulders. And I was just like, by that time, the other officer came in, and I was like, oh my God, this really hurts. I said, do you see what he's doing to me?
And to go back a little bit, when a person, you're being slung around like that and slung on the ground and pushed to the ground, your automatic, response is to, well, I don't want my face to hit the ground. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to protect my face. I don't want my face to, be scratched and rubbed on the ground. So you're trying to pick yourself up while, it's an automatic response while someone's shoving you down like that. And then like your arms being held above your head, it's an automatic response to try to pull down because that hurts.
Yes.
It's not normal.
Yes, exactly. And I remember I was just like, just please let me put my hands behind my back. I was trying to do exactly what he asked me to do, but he refused to let me do it. And that's what the issue is. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So he puts me in the vehicle and everything like that. And I have nothing to hide. So the officer was like, oh, we need to search your vehicle. I said, oh, anybody can search my vehicle, just not him. And so I remember officer went over there to him and everything like that and specifically told him, hey, we need to search a vehicle. And he refused to allow anybody else to search my vehicle. He was in there throwing my stuff around, ripping up my cushions in my car and everything like that. And I'm a firm believer in energy. And I didn't want his energy in my vehicle because we already experienced that situation. And then now, once I'm done with going through this, your spirit and your energy is going to linger in my car. And I don't care. Please check the vehicle. It is okay. But just don't allow him to. And he refused to allow the other officers who asked him to search the vehicle. He refused to allow them to search the vehicle. And while I was in the car, this tow truck guy came up. He looks at him and says, oh, you again?
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So this is not the first time. Very good. So during that time, I asked to go ahead and speak to be able to ride with another officer. Thank God that they said normally we don't allow this to happen, but they allowed me to get into the other vehicle with Spradley. There it is. Mm-hmm. So with Officer Spradley. So they allowed me to actually get in the vehicle with him, which, was a blessing within itself because you just never know.
Right.
You just never know. And from there, I just wanted to understand why. I've always been a person who has the desire to understand why and what's going on. So I just asked him different questions. I was like, well, I don't understand, what's going on. Why is this happening? And he proceeded to tell me that 99% of Black people have violent tendencies.
Ooh. Mm.
And
when I heard that, I was floored. I was like, whoa, this is a mentality.
Yeah.
It's a mentality. It really is. You're dealing with the public, and I deal with the public all the time. I have bad days. I get upset and I have to stop and think, okay, I'm having a really rough day today. Let me just, unwind. Let me chill for a few minutes and then come back at it again, because I'm having a bad day. And what I say is going to be reflected upon my employees. They're going to get upset and angry and it's just going to build in the office. I said, okay, so let me calm down because it's just going to rub off on them. So let me go back, let me chill out for a little bit and let's come back and, hey, how are you doing? How's everyone doing today? And try to change it a little bit.
Yes.
And so this is a mentality because for someone to say something like that, and to say it as calm as he said it and as comfortable as he said it, that hurt me a little bit. that really hurt?
It was very disappointing.
And Eddie, you got something you're dying to say.
Well, I watched the video several times to the point of where he turned violent. And I'm glad that you cleared that up, because he said, please put your legs in the vehicle so I can close the door. And then he said it again. I couldn't see that your legs were out. I mean, you couldn't see that vantage point. So I'm glad that you said you were already, so you're like, what are you talking about? But I did notice that you asked him if he could hurry up. And then he took that as an insult to himself. And then instead of telling you to go in the vehicle so he could close the car door, then he demanded that you got out. And so it was because he felt disrespected and you didn't do anything aggressive or anything, but he didn't want to hear that from you. But I've been pulled over a few times, but I didn't really do anything wrong. It was for little things. So I've never been in that situation. But my husband, whenever, because he speeds a lot, he's gotten pulled over. And I asked him, where did you learn how to do this? But he takes his keys out of the car. He puts them on the dash, and he puts his hands on the steering wheel. And he says, you don't argue with them. You just say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir, no, sir. And so because he had friends that like to speed a lot with their souped up, 65 Mustangs and all of that. And so they get pulled over a lot. So, but that's what he's like, you have to do that. It doesn't matter if you're at fault or you think you did anything wrong. That's what you have to do to survive. And it's frightening that you have to do that, and because it's basically this officer didn't want any lip from you, and he was like, who's this person talking to me this way? And then he says, get out of the car, and then he proceeds to go in there and grab you. He didn't even allow you the time to get out. And
this is, mind you, a traffic stop for a simple speeding ticket.
Yeah, and
that's all this is, a speeding ticket.
And when I was watching the video, I'm like, your car was not even visible for so long, and I didn't even hear the sirens on until you were like in the turn lane going to turn. Right. And so it was like that video, you couldn't tell that he was pulling over anyone for a traffic spot. Right. So I'm wondering, how could she may not even heard those sirens, and even if you heard them, unless you have time, if you're turning, you're not going to be looking in your rear view mirror to see, is that me? Are they trying to pull me over?
See, I'm a body language guy. I read a person's body language, and you can tell by Breion's body language that she had no idea. Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know you're back there. Oh, wow, lights. Oh, you're pulling me over.
It was just a complete overreaction. Now, it did look, I've never been slammed down on the ground like that, so I don't know how it would react, but it was like he was just giving you commands, but not giving you enough time to, follow them in the way he wanted you to follow them. And,
yes, ma'am.
I know sometimes, they are in dangerous situations and police face situations, but it's like you have to, like they said, 112-pound woman,
Yeah, and I understand that because my sorority sister, my LS, the one I consider my sister, she's an officer. And so I know that I pray for her every day. People say I can't do that job, but I don't want to do their job either. And it's just about reaching better understandings and everything like that. And it was a communication issue and sometimes a power issue as well.
So you were driving somewhere that particular day. You end up pulling into Wendy's, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, to get something to eat. And what happened from there? I want you to recap real quick for those people that just joined us.
So from there, Richter pulled behind me, put on his lights. I got out. I was going to go get Wendy's. He came in, and he told me to get back in my car. I went ahead. I got back in my car. From there, he proceeded to pull me out of the car, sling me like a rag doll. And then from there, I was arrested, was put into the back of his car, and then I asked to be able to move to somebody else's vehicle, which was Spratley's. And from there, I was in Spratley's vehicle. And after that, I was at the precinct.
And so while you're in back of that vehicle, you're in the other officer's vehicle, driving to the Travis County jail.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you started a conversation with the officer in the vehicle. And I'm wondering, the officer in the vehicle that you started a conversation with that actually said, that, what did he say again?
99% of black people have violent tendencies.
And I'm just wondering, did anything happen to him?
No.
The $1 million question.
Nothing happened to him. I believe he's still working. You know?
That's a mentality.
Yes, it's a mentality. So that means it's the overall APD issue.
So I need to automatically think that if I'm pulled over by this guy, what's his last name again?
Spratley.
If I'm pulled over by this guy here, I need to automatically think that me being an African American, a black male, I need to automatically be afraid of him.
Exactly. That's pretty much what was trying to be instilled in me, was that we are not going to be protected as a black people. That we have to fear for our lives pretty much because they already have a mindset that we have violent tendencies. When in all actuality, that is not the truth.
All right, and then so you get to Travis County, and anything happen while you're in Travis County Jail at all? Because that's a whole nother mindset in itself, and that's what people don't understand. You know, when you get your liberties removed from you, taken away,
yeah.
you lose your freedom. And you go
yeah.
into Travis County, you go into the jail. Doesn't matter what county it is, but you go into the jail. That's a whole nother experience all by itself that people don't understand. And I try to teach people this when we, do the handgun license course, because, if you do something, it doesn't matter if you're right, wrong, you get arrested, you go down to the jail, you're going to experience something you've never experienced before in your life. You're going to lose your freedom. You're going to lose your rights, all of them, and your dignity.
Oh, yes. I lost all the dignity. I was crying. I didn't know what to do. And one of the officers looks at me. He says, "Oh, you don't belong here." That was the first thing he said. So just him sitting there and him saying that to me was kind of like, oh, my God, he sees that I don't even belong here. And yet I'm still sitting here. So I'm thinking that I'm being here processed for a traffic stop. And I got in around like 1 p.m. and I was sitting there and I ended up having to spend the night. They didn't even tell me what was going on. I was so lost, confused, in a daze.
Because depending on what's going on, what time of day it is, if it's the weekend, you may not see a judge, you may not get, any answers whatsoever. It's hard to get that phone call. I'm telling you right now, you're supposed to get your phone call, but it's not that easy.
It is not that easy. It is not. And I didn't get to see the officer, the judge, until maybe 3:00 in the morning, 3 a.m. And I had my best friend by that time. I got to get in touch with her and her mother, and they were trying to figure out what was going on, and they were calling, trying to figure out what was going on, because they knew. They was like, "Oh, this is not Breaion." They said, "Oh no, Breaion doesn't do this." And
so at this point, your family or someone knew that you were in custody.
They finally knew. They knew I was in custody, and so at 3 a.m. they told me what was happening. One girl was sitting next to me because they heard me crying throughout the whole night, and the girls, I guess, that have been there consistently. And I told them what happened. They was like, "Oh, it's okay. You're going to get out. It's okay." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on." And I'm just crying.
Because you've never been in that predicament before.
Never, ever. And they're just really trying to console me to make me feel better. And like I said, these girls have been locked up several times. And they're like, "Oh, you're going to get out. It's okay. It's okay." And then they see me sitting there with them. And they're like, "Well, why didn't she get out?" And then a girl that I guess came in with me, I remember we were sitting there and she kept holding my hand because I'm just crying. I couldn't stop crying because I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what's going on," And when they said how much it was for me to get released on bond, she said, "Oh my God, what did you do?" And I said, "Oh my God, I don't know." So both of us were just sitting there just lost, because she was just like, she said, "I thought you had a speeding." I said, "I thought I had speeding too."
Wow.
And so someone who has been there several times on several occasions had a bond that was less than mine to get out.
What did they end up charging you with?
So they ended up charging me with arrested for resisting arrest. And then, of course, my best friend, she helped me to find a lawyer, and I was able to get out the next afternoon. So I spent pretty much a whole day within that system.
Ooh. And see, that's why, for my gun owners out there, that's why, I push adamantly, Texas and U.S. Law Shield. Because if something happens to you, you're in this type of situation where, for example, you had to use your firearm for self-defense. Texas and U.S. Law Shield is there for you, and it's very cheap, very inexpensive, and that's why I make sure that I have it. Everyone in my family has it, and all of my employees have it. Because you find yourself in that situation, only person you can call, you got access to, is an attorney, but you got to have one to call one. Mm-hmm. You got to have a number.
You do.
You got to know who to call.
Yes, you do. You really do need to know who to call.
All right. And so now this happens, and then you finally get out?
So, yes, I finally get out, and my best friend, she gives me money to go get my car towed. She gives me clothes to clean up because I literally, during the altercation, I peed on myself. That's how scared I was. And, they didn't give me a change of clothes or anything like that. And then at the time, I was wearing my school shirt, and I was like, that's disrespectful.
So the entire time that you're actually in Travis County custody, you're in those clothes.
No, they took me, and they, of course, when we get back there, they won't let you have your own clothes. So I had to switch into different clothes.
Okay.
But during the time I was sitting there, before they finally took us back, I was sitting in those clothes.
In soiled clothes.
Yes.
Wow. Whew.
Oh, yes. And so my best friend, she came and she got me, and she gave me some money in order to go get my car towed, and I get out of the company, and she stayed with me the whole time. We went to go, I just moved into my house, so she went to go help me get my license and everything like that. I still have that license today, and people don't realize that was the day I came out. She helped me take photos of my body, the bruises and the markings on my arms, and the swelling in my knees and my wrist. And I still have a scar on the side of my wrist that I always take and I look at and I always remember. I can't forget, and I have a tendency to try to repress memories in order to move forward and to move on. But for this situation, I couldn't do it because I knew that there was something bigger that I had to do. I had to protect my kids. I couldn't, after what the officer said to me and then what that officer did, the former officer did to me, I knew that I had to say something. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't know who to talk to. But I knew that what I went through was not okay. And the fact that the tow truck guy said, "Oh, you again?" Richter was out there laughing, and he thought it was funny while I'm going through this. And I was like, he goes home to his family, and look at me. What about me? Oh, well, he has a lot of paperwork and stuff to do. That man still went home to his family, and he still had a great day. He still had a whole great year until he turned around and kicked that young man in his face. And then lied about that too. So it hurt my soul because, they was like, oh, well, we're going to take you to speak to the DA and everything like that. And the woman asked me, she was like, well, how come you didn't go limp? And I told her, I believe I was limp enough when I was in that air.
And it's easy to say that when you're not in that position, because a person grabs you, they sling you around, push you down to the ground. It's hard for people to understand the natural movement of a person is to try to keep your face from hitting the ground, and it's hard to explain, but you kind of have to put people in that situation, then they'll understand.
But once you hit that ground, especially if your head hits that ground, there's far worse issues that could happen to you.
Yes,
I could have been dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was wondering what happened to the disposition of your case, with the arrest, and is that still on your record that follows you?
Oh, so they said that it should have been expunged, but I just literally got a background check to go do preschool, and they sent me my background check, and it's still on there.
So they did drop the charges?
They dropped the charges day one. Like as soon as it was put in, they literally dropped the charges with my first lawyer. And then with my second lawyer, she worked me through the civil suit in order for us to actually try to make a change within the system in order to start protecting more people.
Because why did it take you a year to come forward?
I was speaking to the wrong people. I was talking to the wrong people. So it wasn't that I didn't come forward. I was just talking to the wrong people, and I didn't know who to get in contact with. I didn't know who to get in touch with. And then I was blessed to find my lawyer, Erica. And from that point on, she was the one who was able to help me to get the message out and to support, to be able to start making the changes within the system, or hopefully within the system that needs to stay consistent in order to protect and serve the community.
Some people said it took a year for you to come out and say something. Well, it really didn't take a year.
No. No, it didn't take a year. I was doing my due diligence. Of course, I have to live life. I had to make sure that I was doing what I needed to do in order to get to where I needed to be and continue to be successful. And I had to worry about my kids. So I'm worrying about my students, and I'm making sure that I'm taking care of my students and properly still educating my students, all while looking for the right help. Because I didn't know, the truth of the matter is I was naive, and I didn't know where to find it, and I didn't know where to begin.
Now, what were some of the kids saying?
So after the situation, my kids were like, well, Miss King, well, I don't understand. I don't understand what happened, and I had to tell them, that they're both, how there are good teachers and there are bad teachers. And I'm going to be honest, because I tell there are raggedy teachers and there are good teachers. You have raggedy cops and you have good cops. Everybody's not good and everybody's not bad. And sometimes we have bad moments.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you had something you wanted to say earlier?
Did I?
Well, I was wondering how long it took you to get the video from the police camera so that you could start investigating and do your due diligence about, not only just clearing your name, but also ensuring that this didn't happen to someone else.
So it was within a few weeks that my first lawyer, he got me the video. And so me and my best friend, we watched it, and I was still in awe, and I was still in disbelief in what happened. So he had the video, he had access to the video and everything like that. So I spent that time getting those charges dropped and working on getting those charges dropped. And then after that, that's when I went into looking for another lawyer, because I asked my lawyer at the time, I was like, well, can you help me, figure out what I need to do in order to get the system changed? He's like, oh, well, you need a civil lawyer. Mm-hmm. And of course, I didn't know where to find a civil lawyer. So I was looking and I was searching, and then I finally found Erica. I finally found her.
So then have you sued the city, or you were suing the officer personally?
It was, what ended up happening, it was the city of Austin, because they're the ones who train APD. And this has been something that has consistently apparently been going on for a while, especially from that officer specifically.
Yeah, I read that Officer Richter had arrested 34 people for resisting arrest before he lost his job. And I don't know the averages, but that sounds like a good amount of people there.
Yes, they said that it was at least some officers have been on site 10 years longer than him, and they didn't even have that many arrests. So his was he had a lot more than everybody else. So it should have been a red flag.
So it sounds like he's got a short fuse there.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I know there were a lot of videos that came out about him too afterwards too, like just showing the different things that he did. So it was just kind of interesting how they kind of sat there, watched all those videos, and it of course goes through so many different people, and so many different people pretty much felt like it was okay. So that means there is an issue within the system, because those people saw what he has done, and they never thought to, hey, this is a little red flag. What do we need to do? Hey, what's going on? They never even thought maybe he needs a little help. Maybe he has PTSD. Maybe he has some anger issues. They never thought to get and seek any help for him professionally. Give him some professional development classes. Give him some anger management classes. Give him some counseling.
Because you would think after that incident, after yours, there should have been some counseling or something involved.
Exactly.
An evaluation.
Exactly. And that is what I specifically asked for. I said,
you would think when the city
help.
gets sued for, like almost $1 million, you would think you would have the officer go through some type of mental eval.
Exactly.
Or therapy.
Exactly.
if you're not going to fire the officer.
Exactly. And
I'm just saying.
that's the truth. And all that was asked was just get them some help, get them some anger management, get them some therapy.
And
they don't want to do that.
So if you're media, if you're out there, you're listening, I'm just curious. That's a media story. Out of all the lawsuits that have been filed against the city of Austin by police officers doing whatever, and the city has settled these cases and paid whatever money they paid out, how many and those officers still on the force? How many of those officers actually went through some type of counseling or mental eval or something after that case was settled? Because the city basically said, okay, we were in the wrong. We're not. We're at fault here, so we're going to go ahead and pay this money out. I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, you'd think it'd be to their benefit to get the officer counseling, not even if a lawsuit is filed, but if charges are dropped and it's found to be insufficient what the person was arrested for, yes, that officer should go through counseling of like, here, this is how it should be handled, to not only protect future citizens, but also to improve and help develop that officer and make sure that that they go forward in their career in the right direction. And it just
yes,
helps everyone. But to ignore a problem, it's not the right way to handle it.
Exactly.
And then, so what are some things you would like to change in the system?
What I would like to change is I feel like they need better de-escalation practices. I feel like they need help. They need mental help. They're going out there doing some things that, like I said, I can't do it. I can't see it. I can't watch people. I can't do it. I'm telling y'all that right now. I would not be able to do that job. And they need help and they need support. So why aren't we giving them counseling? Why aren't we getting them mental days? Why aren't we making sure that they're being taken care of? Why are we having them work overtime and, they're exhausted? Why aren't we getting them the proper training? Why aren't we teaching them de-escalation practices? Why aren't we teaching them different things about self-love? Because sometimes a lot of the issues arise when you want to be power hungry or you're angry is because you have issues within your own self. Mm. So why aren't you doing anything to take care of the person as a whole? Because if you take care of the person as a whole, then a lot of those other things can be alleviated.
I wonder how much of the issue with them not doing some of these things comes down to financial reasons. Mm. Because I know that's always an issue. The police department is generally the largest percentage of a city's budget. Mm-hmm. And it depends on how much the leaders of the city are willing to invest in certain things. And so that's also, so maybe that issue should be brought to city council and the mayor about, you need to prioritize the mental health of your officers and to get them counseling and training about how to handle these issues to make sure, because the officers are there to protect and serve the community.
Exactly.
And so those are the kinds of things that going forward is making sure there's money in the budget for that. Mm-hmm. And that's the leadership of the city to make sure, as well as the chief, to advocate for that, to recognize that there's a problem and then advocate for the money to do that.
Yeah, because they do set money aside for lawsuits. so they can definitely
maybe
set money
should,
aside for that.
Exactly.
And it's true.
Instead of that money for lawsuits, put a little bit towards prevention, right?
Exactly.
Crime prevention should be the focus.
Like, be proactive before you have to be reactive. Do you want to have to pay somebody this amount of money versus you paying into your officers? Mm-hmm. You're putting into their long term, because that means they'll be able to actually stay there longer, and that means you have a better support system, and your retention rate is so much better. And so there's a lot less confusion whenever you can retain more officers than having to kind of keep recycling and getting new and throwing the other ones out.
I just see a lot of short-term versus long-term politics come into some of these decisions, unfortunately.
And so tell us, Breaion, what are you doing now?
So right now I am substituting with preschoolers, and it is amazing. It's that has been a blessing too. They're so cute. They're so amazing. And then their minds are like sponges, so they're ready and willing to learn, and just the simple things, and that's beautiful. And I'm still dancing with Ashe Arts Collective.
Nice. And I got a lot of ladies that are sending me private messages saying that you're awesome. You're an inspiration to women, in Austin and, in Texas as well. To experience something like that and to, pick yourself up and kind of overcome that and try to change the system also. It takes a lot, to fight the system.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
It's important to shine a light, and even though, it takes a lot of courage and bravery to put your situation out there for public consumption, but to do it so that other people's don't have to go through that same experience, and that you can have a positive impact going forward in Austin and the police department, and especially for women and people of color to not let someone get you down like that way and make you feel like it was your fault, but to put the light back on them and shine it where they need to improve.
Absolutely. Man, I tell you, Breaion, thank you very much for coming to the studio today. Appreciate that, especially on Super Bowl Sunday. Because anybody but New England, that's what's getting ready to happen right now. We're minutes away from the Super Bowl, minutes away from kickoff in anyone but New England. So we can all come together and agree on that, let me tell you. At least from Texas, anyone but New England. That's who I'm rooting for. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there, you buy yourself a gun. You've been listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.